Hi, everyone. My name is Susanna Zavala, and I'm one of the mental health clinicians with the mental health department at the West Dallas Youth and Family Center. And so I replaced Miss Kara Hill, who is unfortunately out of the office at the moment. And so I'm so excited and happy to be here to join you all for this presentation. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about just stress. The title of this presentation is called um, Kids Get Stressed Too, Destressing the Family Unit. And so our session objectives are identifying how stress affects the brain, recognizing signs of stress, identifying different techniques on how to help your child, provide an overview of our mental health services department. Next slide, please. And so we're going to be focusing on stress and the brain today. And so here you see an illustration of the brain. So just I'm going to share some information on it. The brain stem here is the lowest part of your brain that controls basic life functions like breathing, blood pressure, heart rate. This part of your brain is developed at birth. And as we go up the brain, you can see the middle section, which is known as the limbic system. And it is our emotional control portion of our brain. So it helps us recognize our emotions and how to stay in control of our emotions. The top part of our brain is what we call the prefrontal cortex, which controls the logic and thinking. It allows the brain to make decisions and to think complexly. This part of the brain is not fully developed until our mid-20s. Now, just to focus on how stress affects the brain, I want to focus back on the limbic system. This is where the amygdala is in our brain. The amygdala is important because it is in charge of our fight, flight, or freeze response. So it checks our surroundings to determine if there's a threat, if it senses danger or not, and how to respond to that. It's our job. Its job is to try to protect us. So you can think of it somewhat as the amygdala as an alarm clock. When there is perceived danger or threat, it will sound the alarm, which will make it go off. When the threat is passed, the alarm is turned off, and that part of the brain can begin thinking clearly for us again. And so when we are in times of a lot of stress, the amygdala never really turns off. It continues to go off on a frequent basis, and it continues to assume that everything around you is a threat or it's danger. When we are stressed, the logical part of our brain is no longer in control. So while the prefrontal cortex may know we are not stressed, the amygdala does not. Next slide, please. And so here are a few examples on signs of stress that we might experience as adults and even signs of stress that children might experience. Easily agitated, numb or detached, tired, feeling lethargic, reactive or aggressive, isolated or withdrawn. Many kids who experience stress might isolate, might withdraw, might not engage with friends, might not be engaging with family. And so all of these are all normal signs of fight, flight, or freeze response. Next slide, please. So here are some of the examples that we might experience due to stress or causes of stress. So one of the main things that a lot of us have been experiencing within the last year is the pandemic. So we realize that has been hard on everyone. And so that is one of the causes of stress, not just to adults, but to children as well. Schoolwork, dynamics and relationships with friends and in the home setting, relationship problems, economic stressors, and pressure of being at school. Those are some of the common causes of stress. Next slide, please. And so today we're going to focus on learning how to cope with those causes of stress. And so coping skills are valuable tools that help us manage those stressful events, those stressful moments. And so our goal is to help the child access the upstairs part of the brain, which is in charge of helping the child critically think and calm down. For this reason, it is important to teach and model coping skills, more specifically, healthy coping skills. So you might ask, what are coping skills? Coping skills are valuable tools to help us manage stressful events, long-term anxiety, and emotional concerns. There are two different types of coping skills, um, unhealthy and healthy coping skills. Unhealthy coping skills are those that are destructive patterns or behaviors that we turn to in times of stress. So we might believe that these are healthy coping skills, but in reality, it might not be helping us in those times of high stress. So unhealthy coping skills may look like avoidance, using drugs or alcohol, self-harming or cutting, aggression, and other maladaptive behaviors. Healthy coping skills are patterns or behaviors that are beneficial in navigating those stressful life events. So some examples of healthy coping skills may include deep breathing exercises, just like Ms. Ardina mentioned in the previous session, muscle relaxation, mindfulness, journaling, and physical exercise. So in order for us to ground ourselves or calm ourselves down in those moments of high stress or just stress and overall, we have to be able to connect with ourselves first. So identifying the feelings that you might be experiencing is an important start. It is normal for us to experience a wide variety of feelings, from happiness to anger to shame. A large component of healthy coping is setting healthy boundaries for ourselves. So being able to be compassionate, hearing yourself, and maintaining your physical and emotional safety. Setting a positive example for your children is an important part of modeling regulation or healthy coping skills. So you demonstrating these coping skills to your children and the way you cope is a good example of how you're modeling it to them. So it's important to be mindful and engaging in healthy coping skills on a regular basis so that it is something commonly, like I said, modeled for your child. At first, it may be uncomfortable, but the more you practice, the easier it will become. As we go through these next slides, there may be coping skills that you feel more comfortable with than others. It is important that you find what works best for you because not all coping skills work for everyone. So just make sure that you know what feels comfortable with you and what works best with you and your children. And of course, what you feel more comfortable with. Next slide, please. So some of the coping skills that I like to talk to you about today are these two main ones. So as we can see on this picture, we call this cartoon is mindful or being mindful. And so the first bullet point here, it's talking about pressure points. So the two examples is the pressure points and engaging the five senses as a grounding technique. So pressure points can often help us in the reduction of anxiety or stress. Some examples of pressure points that exist in our bodies are the hand valley point, located between the thumb and the index finger, temporal point, located on each temple, and Cupid's bow point, located above our top lip. However, today I wanted to practice grounding and relaxation through engaging the five senses with everyone. This five senses grounding activity involves bringing the mind back to the present moment and can be very helpful for people experiencing anxiety. So we will be engaging the following five senses, which are sight, touch, sound, smell, and taste. First, we will begin by sitting in a comfortable position and taking a deep breath. Now you are going to look around you and notice five unique things that you can see in the room or area that you are in. You can name these out loud or in your head whenever you're practicing this, whichever you feel most comfortable with. Then you are going to pay attention to your sense of touch and notice four things on or around you that you can feel with your hands, feet, and skin. So these can be maybe what you're wearing, your clothes, maybe your shoes, if you're sitting on a comfortable couch or recliner, what that feels like. And so just really paying attention to that sense of touch. Now you will pay attention to sound and sit quietly while listening for three different things that you hear in the location that you are in. And so these can be anything as far as like maybe you hear someone in the kitchen cooking, maybe you hear some sirens outside, maybe you hear the birds chirping. A lot of the times we tend to tune out noises that we're accustomed to hearing. And so just really being mindful of those noises or sounds that you can hear in your surroundings. Last, now pay attention to the smells in your room that you are in and list 2 smells out loud or in your head. Last, pay attention to your sense of taste and notice the taste in your mouth or a sip of water that you've had. Sometimes this can be the most challenging sense in this grounding activity, but you can always think back of maybe a favorite candy, your favorite food. Maybe you can grab a small piece of candy or a gum and put it in your mouth and be mindful about its taste. Maybe you can think back of maybe one of your favorite meals that you've had or haven't had in a long time and what that really taste is like. And so you can get creative with this last sense. Notice how you feel being mindful and hopefully more grounded after having engaged your 5 senses. So as previously mentioned, this activity's purpose is to ground us and bring us back to the present moment when we're feeling anxious or we're feeling high levels of stress or when we're just noticing that our stress level is there or it's something is triggering it. Next slide, please. So as mentioned before in one of the previous slides, I mentioned how physical activity is important, physical exercise. And so other coping skills that you can practice with your children and model to your children is physical activity, healthy movement, journaling, deep breathing. And so we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about that. Physical activity brings down chemicals in the brain that cause dysregulation. So some examples of physical activity kind of just like are going on family walks, playing outside, taking 5 minutes to do stretches while working. When journaling, you can engage in free writing. So write whatever maybe comes to your mind, or if there's something in particular that stands out to you, writing about it. Or you can just choose to write about different prompts, such as different things that you are grateful for. So making a list of things that you're grateful for, or just maybe even specific challenges you are facing in the moment. When individuals are frightened, they breathe up the top of 1/3 of lung. A lack of breathing, which is shallow breathing, causes anxiety and aggression. Deep breathing works by taking slow, deep breaths to trigger the body's relaxation response. It's important for us to practice the breathing while you are calm, so that it can recognize the process instead of attempting to engage for the first time while you are in times of stress. So whenever you practice those deep breathing skills, whenever you are calm, it helps you recognize that. And so in those moments of stress or anxiety, you are able to practice those skills and you have somewhat mastered that skill. Practice deep breathing just by taking a couple of deep breaths. Your stomach should expand by pushing out and deflate by pulling in with each breath. And as you breathe in and out, slow your breathing down. Expand your stomach with your next deep breath. Slowly count from 1 to 5, or as far as you are able to in that single breath, and then deflate your stomach by exhaling slowly, counting from 1 to 5 again. And as far until you are out of breath. And so you can repeat this process as long as you like and as long as until you feel relaxed. When leading children in deep breathing, you can use images such as the one here that we see, which is blowing on a pinwheel. You can also get creative with this deep breathing activity by maybe, if your child likes hot chocolate or maybe soup, and just using your imagination by holding the soup in front of you or holding the hot chocolate in front of you and trying to cool it off by taking those deep breaths and blowing on it. So you can get creative with many things with the deep breathing exercise with your children, obviously depending on ages as well. Encourage your children to place their hand as well. Another thing that you can do is encourage your children to place their hand on their belly so they can feel their stomach moving up and down as they do their belly breaths. You can also have them lay on the floor, maybe put a stuffed animal on their belly to where they can see and feel the stuffed animal moving up and down as they're taking those deep breaths in and letting those deep breaths out. So again, you can use your imagination different ways to engage the children to practice deep breathing exercises. We can also provide handouts, and you can see additional coping skills that can be applied to you and your family. Next slide, please. And so this is just an overview again, as far as like what the Dallas ISD Mental Health Services provides. It was mentioned previously, but just to have an overview again, the Dallas ISD provides mental and physical health services to all Dallas ISD students and their families. And so all the clinicians at all of our centers have advanced degrees and are licensed mental health providers. We collaborate with our psychiatrists and other DISD departments, outside agencies, and nonprofit organizations, all with considering the health and the well-being is our primary focus in helping students be successful. Next slide, please. So I am we, as part of the mental health services department, we provide different services, clinic-based services, school-based services. I am part of the clinic-based services, and so I'm going to focus on that first. We have 12 youth and family center locations throughout Dallas ISD. We provide evaluations, psychosocial assessments for students. We provide individual, family, and group counseling. Our psychiatrist provides consultations and medication management. We provide parent education and workshops. We also are partnered with our Parkland Health Services, which is located within the clinic as well, and they serve children ages 5 to 9. So there's a partnership there to help support our Dallas ISD students as well. Other services that are provided by Parkland is physicals, sick and well child visits, management or chronic illness such as asthma, obesity, diabetes. They provide immunizations, specialty referrals, family planning, pregnancy testing, STI and HIV testing, health education, referrals for labs or x-rays, and pharmacy services. And if for some reason any additional resources are needed or referrals are needed, they are able to provide other resources within the community. Next slide, please. As mentioned before, that within the mental health services department, we have school-based services. And so school-based services focuses on consultations about emotional, social, and behavior issues which impact the students' learning. So they also respond to threats of suicide and violence for all students. They provide individual and group counseling to general education students. They are more short-term based, but please know that we collaborate with our school-based clinicians so that if a child was in need of long-term services or that family therapy, then they can send a referral to one of our clinics so that we can support that student. Next slide, please. We also, part of the mental health services department is also the alcohol and intervention program, which it provides substance abuse education, intervention services to those students. Their primary scope is to increase awareness, expand prevention, education, help facilitate interventions to help students with life choices who may be struggling with substance abuse and unhealthy life choices. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, I am part of the mental health services department, West Dallas Youth and Family Center. And so here it gives you an overview of information as far as how you can get in contact with one of our clinics, or even the school-based services, and Parkland Physical Health Services as well. And so we have a website where you can get additional information. If you have clinic-based questions, we have provided the West Dallas Youth and Family Center contact phone number, the 972-502-4040. And then we also provided school-based questions or to report a crisis, you can contact assigned school-based clinician or the number that's located here as well. Each school has a school-based clinician assigned to them. And so if you are needing any type of school-based services, you're more than welcome to contact them as well. We also have the Parkland Physical Health Services, again, who provide those physical immunizations, well checks. And so this is the contact information for the clinic that's located at the West Dallas Youth and Family Center. There's a phone number here. At this specific location right now, we're only seeing students on Mondays and Wednesdays. Again, this is just the Parkland Physical Health Services. So they're seeing students Mondays and Wednesdays by appointment only, and they're open from 8 to 5. And so here's contact information as well. If for any family that is needing any of those services, feel free to reach out. Next slide, please. And here just demonstrates references that were used for this presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, if you or your student is needing any type of resources or assistance, please feel free to reach out to us and contact us. We'd like to be able to support and service you in any kind of way we can. Thank you so much.